Well, the keeper of the old ways is to keep the values and the dependence on other people.
I still got that picture of you.
That we need each other. And if you notice today that the people that are teaching and sharing their knowledge with this has a joy about them that they want to share.
I would like that.
Yeah. How to survive.
No, not Tampa.
Without spending every dime you have and not putting all your resources in one basket. You can do it on very little. Most people will spend more money than they're making trying to live. And we have provisions made for us that we can survive off of very little and do very well with the little bit.
Count 3, we got to do the homestead, hope we yell out. Ready? 1. That's what's up, homestead. 1, 2, 3. Nice.
How are you today? Okay, so I'm Stacy and that's Doug, and we are a couple who I guess left the city, solar have been operating for 13 years. We wanted to live, we raise our own food, we wanted to know where we were coming from, we wanted to do all this and get how we can not have to worry about the system. And we built a lot, we have 600 square foot, we have it made out of white oak. We did it in 90 days, believe it or not, right for winter, and then we moved in.
So for us, going from the bottom up, right? We've done all the struggles, we know how to operate all the systems without any outside interference, and that's how we are successful in what we do now. If you don't put in that time, then you won't develop the systems, you won't have the movement, right? So we did that for quite a while, all the water, moving around. And we didn't have any systems. When we got there, we didn't do much of homework. We're trying to teach you guys to do a little more homework than we did.
When my wife and I started this place, there was a lot of these old buildings that were disappearing in such a hurry. We wanted to preserve them so our next generation or two could enjoy them and see what their parents and grandparents had to go through to get them to where they are today. We went to work on getting a community census to see if it was feasible and if they would back us up, and we had no problem on getting somebody to help us with labor and support, patting us on the back to say go for it because this is important for our community to have this. So we went to work on it, and we established a membership right off the bat, and to give us a little money to send out a newsletter, whatever. We want it to be a teaching organization. We only have 2 buildings left to come out here, and then we have it completed. We're working on a building now down there, old-fashioned woodworking shop, to teach kids what you can do out of a piece of wood. And also, we're going to have a library there that of books on and literature on the importance for the settlement here. The funds for this building, we've been wanting to do this thing for years, and we did not have the funds. And we had a couple come through here just before the hurricane hit. They were from Pennsylvania. It was a son and mother. He's in his 60s, and she had to be in her 80s or around 90s. Well, right after the hurricane came through, we got a letter from a lawyer in Pennsylvania, and we opened it up, and it was addressed to me, and it had a check in there of $70,000. She had died and left us in her will, and so we're building this building, going to put a plaque on it in honor of her. So we're stretching that money just as far as we can. We're building it with volunteers, and We hunting bargains on material and letting it be an educational center for kids, adults, whoever to be interested in. Let people realize we need this because our very survival came from our parents, our grandparents, and it teaches you to handle what you have and to make it better because it's such a need, and people are hungry for it, and we have the facility to fill the need, so why not help them in this way?
When you think you can't do something and talk yourself out of it, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. Because I don't care if you live smack dab in the middle of Los Angeles or, a city in New York or wherever. There's people doing this on rooftops. They're doing it on smaller pieces of property than I have. We didn't spend a whole bunch of money to get this started. We had a few barnyard mixed chickens, and then I hit a lot of garage sales. I repurposed a bunch of stuff. So if I take some apart and it's usable wood, I'll put it over there and put a tarp on it. And I'll keep it because everybody knows metal and wood keeps fluctuating right now. So this hoop coop build that I'm going to show y'all tomorrow, we're going to have a little class on it tomorrow. 2 years ago, I built one and it was $112 for all the materials.
Because this was just a decoration, I didn't go that far. So I just, if I wanted to, I would just keep working at this until
it was really, really soft.
Yeah, I mean it's rolled up and soft now to me, but if I wanted it wearable, like right now it crinkles. It's like paper.
Yeah.
But you just wet it again and just start pulling and stretching. And
the only thing I know about tanning was reading where the Eskimos chewed the skins to soften them. That's all I know.
Question that. I'm pretty sure they did, but I'm gonna guess it was probably for these edges right here. It's stiff. Let me work. I can't imagine somebody going through this whole thing. It's not that hard. It's just labor intensive.
Labor intensive.
If you've studied archaeology and you look at the Indians' teeth, their teeth were perfect. A lot of them, except for the people who lived on the coast because they had a lot of coastal food, a lot of sand. Their teeth were more worn. I don't recall seeing nubby teeth. Maybe they were. It seemed like the introduction of sugar from Europeans is what did their teeth in.
I'm 82 years old, I think, and I was raised up very poor. There was 8 children in our family. There was 5 girls my family had, and then they quit having children. 8 years later, they started having boys, and they had 3 boys. So they had 2 separate families with the same mother and father, We never had a car, never owned a car. We had a mule and wagon that we went from place to place with, and normally you didn't go over 5 miles away from home because that 5 miles taking an hour and a half to 2 hours, all depend on who you stop and talk with. And then you had to turn around and do the same thing coming back home. But everybody had their chores to do and their responsibilities, and that way it made everything work and everything was completed. There was a lot of joy in learning new things every day that you had to depend on each other to do. When your duties were given to you, where yours stopped off, the other person's picked up. And every once in a while, they was not able to do their share, so you would have to double over and get into their area and do their share too. So that gave us a sense of helping each other early on.
You would dip your cotton wick into the wax and pull it out, and then hang it up, and then keep working your way around, and then keep dipping. By the time you get back around to that one, it's cool enough to dip again. These have been dipped about 5 times. These have been dipped 10 or about 20 times because this is 5, and then these are 50 or more.
Wow.
So depending, yes, depending on the size of the candle that you want, it can take a pretty good while. When you're making the candles, the wax drips down. So every like 10 to 15 times you dip your candle, you'll take your knife and you'll dip it into the hot water. You'll use your hot knife and you'll cut off the excess wax, put it back in your pot, and then keep on going. You can see these guys. I dipped these a couple of times yesterday, and they're starting to drip again. So you just want to trim that excess off. This candle here, this green candle, is actually made out of a bayberry. It's called bayberry. There's an old wise tale that says on Christmas Eve, if you burn a bayberry candle from wick to socket, it'll bring food to the larder and gold to the pocket. So if you need some good luck, you can burn it on Christmas Eve. But this candle is actually made out of a wax myrtle berry. It's a very labor-intensive process to make a bayberry candle, but it's a local wax, and it's kind of brittle. When you make your bayberry wax, you want to take at least 1/4 of beeswax and mix it in with the bayberry so it won't break as easily.
You could not survive without community. People are seeking wealth, and I asked them, do they know the 2 wealthiest men there's ever been? No, they don't. I said, well, Adam was one of them, because he had the whole world to himself. He wasn't happy. Nothing has changed. What makes people happy? What makes you happy?
I would say being creative.
You've got a mind that will never be satisfied, didn't it? Well, that's the way we need to be, to have this desire and hunger to be creative and to share it. And if you don't share it, what if you found $1 million and you stuck it in your pocket? You wouldn't spend it. You wouldn't let nobody have it, let you know that you have it. What good is it if you didn't spend it? If you didn't share it? Somebody asked me here a while back, you know the mega lottery is up to so and so. Well, I don't play it. 600 million, I think they said. What would you do if you won $600 million? I said, well, that's a lot of money. It'd take a long time to spend it, and it'd take me a long time to figure it out. But to start with, I would give every man, woman, and child in Calhoun County a big portion of it. Each one of them would get a big lump sum of it. Because people don't realize what $600 million how big a pile it is, how much heartache it is. So, you know, to really enjoy something like that, share it. And like I said, if you had $1 million, stick it in your pocket and never share it with anybody, never spend it, what good is it?
Yeah.
You have to take into account that if I don't have food or if there's no food at the grocery store. Anybody see what's going on in the grocery stores recently? Right? Those shelves are looking kind of empty and sometimes you're just like, whoa, what's going on with the supply chain? So it's becoming a reality that there's sometimes people may not have food, right? So C, pay attention. So again, this is about building that muscle, that paying attention muscle. What do you do to see what's happening in the world around you? You have to apply the knowledge that you're learning. If you just read it and just go on about your daily life, you're going to forget it. It's going to be a perishable thing. It's going to go away. So you need to be able to hold on to it, right? These are the things that are happening. What's my backup? So again, all of this is about getting you ready as an individual.
I read this book called Tree Crops by J. Russell Smith. Really, really good book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It was written about 100 years ago. The guy was an inspirational thinking forwards of how we could stop tilling the ground and stop it with all this erosion and destruction. He was watching the tillers move across the United States in areas that had been rich ground were eroded and the soil was washed away. And he was looking at the Dust Bowl and how things were, you know, falling apart there. I love the food forest idea. I love those long-term yields. I like the idea of planting a fruit tree when you're young and harvesting from it when you're old. Not having to always go through there and chop the ground and work your corn and try to, you know, toil your way to food. The idea of walking through a food forest and having the entire yard be this beautiful edible landscape is very exciting. And it's beautiful, and it feels like you've gone back to the Garden of Eden. I think by our nature as humans, we tend to embrace one system so wholeheartedly that we don't see the uses of other systems, right? A successful guy once told me, he said, don't be afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, you'll never succeed at anything. What you have to do is fail fast and gloriously. Fail over and over and over again on purpose. Does this work? People will say, can I plant an avocado in Georgia? Do it! Will it grow? Do it! See, you don't know yet. And you know what? If you really want to find out, plant every variety of avocado that you can find in your backyard, protect them for a couple of years, and stop protecting them. When they get big enough, they might be frost tolerant. See, if one of them lives, then definitely you can grow an avocado in Georgia. People will tell you you can't because they're afraid of the borders, the boundaries, those uncertain things where you might fail. You know, my plant might die. Well, that's okay. That's okay. You know how many seeds nature throws out for each one of those oaks that you see out there? How many acorns drop on the ground and get crunched underneath the wheels of the cars, eaten by the deer, rotten into the ground, eaten by squirrels? She might throw out 10,000 seeds to get one oak tree. So don't be afraid. The system is actually so abundant that you can fail in a bazillion ways and still succeed.
I just thank you all for coming. Thank you for letting me meet y'all, because it's been my pleasure, and y'all are special people. So.
Thank you.